Ayodeji is very strict and demanding boss. He dresses formally and often appears serious. He is cold as ice and doesn't show much empathy, often being harsh with his employees. He holds grudges and takes revenge on people from his past. One day, a woman named Helen was rushing to a job interview when she suddenly got hit by a car. She struggled to get up, and the driver panicked, but his boss, Ayodeji, handed him an envelope to give to the woman they had hit. The driver steps out of the car and asks Helen if she's hurt, then gives her the envelope. However, Helen refuses it, saying she was also at fault for not looking ahead and that a sincere apology is enough. The driver reports back to Ayodeji, who is cold as ice and offers no apology, and they leave. Typical of someone in his position, right? Why bother with an apology when you can just throw money at the problem? At work, Ayodeji's personal assistant, Blessing, who is very afraid of her boss, briefs him on the recent applicants for the second assistant role. He asks her how many showed up. She said there were 7 applications only, since it was short notice. Ayodeji insisted on being involved only in the final part of the interview process. Charming, isn't he? Clearly, Ayodeji holds a high opinion of his own judgment. But before Blessing leaves, she asked Ayodeji, "Is there anything else you need, boss?" Ayodeji didn't answer, so she asked again, but he still didn't reply. Blessing had no choice but to leave. Later, Blessing had already conducted the first part of the interviews. Now it's time for the final round, and she brings the remaining candidates to Ayodeji's office. He sees Helen and criticizes her for her mud-stained clothes, deliberately forgetting he caused it. She explains she had an accident on the way to the interview, but he remains indifferent. Compassionate as ever, Ayodeji. Despite his attitude, Blessing tries to convince him to hire Helen, noting her qualifications. Ayodeji dismisses the idea, but Blessing leaves Helen's file on his table as she escorts her out of the office. Ayodeji opens the file, reads it, and instructs Blessing to call her back. The other 2 candidates are dismissed, and he told them they didn't get the job. Helen starts her new role, and Blessing is delighted to have a new colleague in the office. If only Helen knew what she was getting into. The next morning, as Helen was getting ready for work, she looked in the mirror and told herself that she was beautiful. At work, Blessing noticed a change. Ayodeji frequently called Helen into his office, addressing her by her first name, something he never did with others. Blessing secretly enjoyed not having to deal with his attitude as much. Watching Helen navigate the stormy waters of Ayodeji's personality, she thought, maybe this place could use a bit of Helen's spirit. For now, Helen has taken center stage in Ayodeji's universe, but how long can she hold it? After working together for several days, Ayodeji asked Helen if she remembers him, but she said no. He tells Helen that they used to be classmates back in primary school. He shares that he was the chubby kid with glasses, while she was the girl with acne. They both got picked on by bullies at school, but now he says he turned out okay, while she is still very timid. Helen told him, "I remember you used to be very gentle. Why have you changed like this?" Ayodeji said there are 2 types of people in this world, those who push others and those who get pushed around. I learned it late, but it seems you haven't learned it yet. Then Helen left his office. If you're enjoying this story and crave more Nigerian movies recaps, be sure to subscribe to Nigeflix. Nigeflix offers endless entertainment right at your fingertips. Don't miss out on the excitement. Subscribe now. That evening, Helen met up with her friends, Sophia and Michelle, eager to share her news. "I got the job," she exclaimed, but they barely reacted. Michelle was more interested in Sophia's dramas. Sophia lied about how her boyfriend proposed, but in reality, he just bought a ring, decorated the room with rose petals, but didn't show up. When Sophia called him, he simply said, "The ring is in the box. It's a 1-carat diamond like you wanted. Put it on." The voice on the phone? None other than Ayodeji. Surprised? Hardly. Ayodeji's coldness is legendary. One day, Blessing was supposed to call a client and confirm the time of the meeting, but forgot, and Ayodeji got really upset about it. To avoid getting into trouble, she lied and said it was Helen's responsibility, and Helen took the fall. Blessing quickly threw Helen under the bus to save her own skin. Office drama at its finest. Helen told her boss to call them right now, but Ayodeji chased her out of his office. When they went back to their office, Helen was very upset, and Blessing apologized. Blessing admitted she was scared of losing her job, and knowing that Ayodeji likes Helen, she thought he wouldn't fire her. The two women made up and smiled at each other. A small victory for Blessing, but I think it's built on a shaky foundation. Another day, Ayodeji called Helen into his office and showed her their old classmate, Stan, on his tablet. He told her to get ready as they were going to a meeting with Stan because he had reached out to Ayodeji's company for help to save his own company from going bankrupt. Helen told Ayodeji that it is good to repay evil with kindness. But it turns out Ayodeji didn't save Stan's company. Instead, he convinced the shareholders to sell it to him. Then, he called Helen to the conference room to make fun of Stan, who was a typical bad person and didn't remember who he had hurt until Ayodeji reminded him. Stanley wasn't happy about it. How predictable. Bullies rarely remember their victims, but the scars they leave behind linger. So, he wanted to hit Ayodeji, but he told him if he did that, it's jail time of 7 years or a fine of 10 million naira. What do you choose? Stan let him go. Just when you think Ayodeji couldn't sink lower, he manages to surprise us. On their ride back to the office, Helen asked Ayodeji why he took revenge. Ayodeji started mocking Helen and reminded her about the accident. He said, "We offered you money, but you refused. You are completely worthless. I feel sorry for you, even though you don't deserve my sympathy." He went on and on about how there are two types of people in this world, those who push others and those who get pushed around. He called her a pushover, someone who doesn't love herself and has no self-respect or confidence. He continued, "That's why you took responsibility for my personal assistant when she did something wrong." Oh, you thought I didn't know? Helen got really angry and asked to get out of the car. Ayodeji agreed and told Basi, the driver, to stop the car. Basi questioned Ayodeji's decision, but Ayodeji insisted they drive on without Helen. Ayodeji's actions were so cruel. At night, Helen went to hang out with her friends, Michelle and Sophia, at a bar. She got very drunk. All three women were waiting for Sophia's boyfriend to show up, but he was running late. Michelle suggested they go upstairs to hang out with a friend. When Sophia called Helen to join them, Michelle said, "No, she cannot come with us." Helen let them leave without her. Seems like Helen's night isn't improving, rejected even by her friends. Ayodeji came to the bar to meet his fiancée and her friends, but found only Helen. He asked her why she was drinking alone. She said her friends are up there, and she started ranting about herself, repeating what he had said, and many other things. She wondered if she was truly unlovable. Ayodeji listened to her rant, and then she started talking about meeting a man of her dreams and kissing him. Ah, the irony. Helen spills her heart out to the man partly responsible for her misery. Perhaps this encounter might change things, or perhaps it's just another cruel twist of fate. What will happen next? Will Helen's resilience soften Ayodeji's heart, or will he stay mean and push her away? Will Ayodeji fall in love with Helen? Stay tuned for part 2 on Naija Flix, where more secrets and new twists will be revealed.